great lineup of speakers for you. And, but let's talk about the holiday season. It's a time of joy, it's a time of giving, connection with friends and family, but it is also a time when fraudsters, thieves, scammers are particularly active, and that's why we always enjoy bringing you this webinar at this time of year. A rise in online shopping, a lot of deliveries coming to people's house, charitable giving, a lot of financial transactions at this time of year. So the risk of fraud and scams is so much higher at this time of year. So our goal today is to empower everyone with knowledge and tools that you can use to protect yourself, your loved ones, and also just your finances during this time of year. So we're fortunate to have an outstanding panel today. 6 experts are joining us, everyone with their own unique perspective, with also a wealth of experience in the area that they are working in to tackle frauds and scams for us. So they'll be sharing their insights, their tips, real life examples so that you can stay vigilant and know what's going on out there and be vigilant. So let's introduce our speakers very briefly. So Kim Wickersham will be our first speaker. She is the Director of Public Charities Division of the South Carolina Secretary of State. Crystal Strong, who is the Senior Medicare Patrol Program Manager at the South Carolina Department on Aging. And Takesha Waller, who is a Senior Investigator at the South Carolina Office of Regulatory Staff. And Jim Copeland will be joining us. He is substituting in for Scott Cook, who has lost his voice. It's that time of year, right, for seasonal scams, but also seasonal allergies and that sort of thing. So Jim Copeland, who is the Chief Enforcement Attorney at the Department of Consumer Affairs, will be joining us. And then Lieutenant Tom Amaro, who is here with us. He's from the Richland County Sheriff's Department on package theft, fake arrest warrants and such. And then we'll round it out with Eric Rosedale from SLED, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, on gift card scams and some of that. So welcome everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. Our first speaker is Kim Wickersham, who will be sharing Give from the Heart, but please give smart. And Kim, if you'll go ahead and share your screen.
There we go. That should be it. All right. Thank you, Susan. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and present to this group of people. You're absolutely right. This is the time of year where everyone seems to come out and want a portion of our hard-earned money, whether you're as youngster, just out of college, or part of the aging group and the elderly. I want to talk to you today about charitable giving. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the types of organizations that might be soliciting for contributions and talk to you about who they are, what's required of them, and then I'm going to give you some tools to be able to look and make sure that the people that you're giving to are or are requesting your money or contributions, donations of furniture, could be anything, that they're actually properly registered and they're doing good things with the resources that they're given and trusted with. So let's start out with charitable organizations. So charitable organization is defined in a few ways. It can be just as simple as an organization that has a tax exempt status letter as a 501c3 from the IRS. It could be an organization that has incorporated or started a group that has a charitable purpose, that they want to solicit contributions to give away or to help provide services for someone. And then it also could just be a nonprofit organization or possibly a for-profit organization that perhaps has a charitable appeal, we call it. So we have out there are some organizations that might be registered For instance, there is a carpet cleaning business that has a special fund that they started, and it's a fund where their employees can contribute to it. And then they use that to help people in their local area that they serve whenever they see that there's a need. Maybe there was a house fire, maybe they find out that someone in the area is having a family crisis, but they use that money that's solicited from their employers and anyone else that or employees and anyone else that wants to contribute. They'll use that to go ahead and carry out a charitable purpose. So if someone is a for-profit or not formally organized, they can have a charitable appeal. They are also required to be registered with our office. Some organizations that are not required to register with our office as a charitable organization would be a church or another congregation that's organized for the purpose of worship. And they're integrated auxiliaries, meaning if they have a women's group or a men's group that solicits contributions, but all of their money goes into the church's account under their EIN number. Those are integrated auxiliaries not required to register with our office. A religious organization that the IRS says is tax exempt and they're not required to file a financial report with the IRS. Those are considered organizations that are not required to register with us. An example of that might be if you've ever heard of an organization called Focus on the Family. They are considered a religious organization. They're not required to file a financial report with the IRS. They won't be on our website as a registered organization. However, they can legally solicit in the state because they have that religious organization category from the IRS, that designation. And then again, lastly, political candidates or parties required to file with the Federal Election Commission or the State Election Commission are not required to be on file with our office as a charitable organization in order to solicit. Any charitable organization that wants to solicit contributions in South Carolina, they have to register or file an application for exemption prior to solicitation activity. So if you see someone on the street asking for donations, or if you see someone out in front of a store, you should be able to look them up and see whether or not they're properly registered and what they're doing with their money. And I'm going to give you some tools at the end to be able to do just that, so you can make decisions on the spot if you should decide that you're feeling generous at that moment. Another way people want to contribute money is by participating in a raffle. So you will have nonprofit organizations that will conduct raffles as a way to fundraise instead of going door to door, making calls, sending out solicitations by mail. They may hold raffles to raise some funds, but only certain types of organizations can conduct raffles. Nonprofit to nonprofit that is considered tax exempt by the IRS, and it has to fall under one of these codes here. 501c3, of course, is the most popular code if you want to use that term. But 501c3, a lot of those will be out there and they will conduct raffles, but any of the other codes you see listed here, code sections, can conduct raffles as well, as long as they follow the next two criteria that are coming up. Another one that can register to conduct raffles is a class, a department, or an organization of an educational institution. So you can have a school that is going to conduct a raffle because they will be registered as a school district. It'll cover all their registration. So you might see a school that is soliciting by conducting raffles. The organizations have to have a charitable purpose. So in other words, it has to be a nonprofit organization organized specifically for charitable purposes. The organization also has to be compliant with the Solicitation of Charitable Funds Act. In other words, they have to be registered with our office as a charitable organization or file an annual registration for exemption. the organization has to, like I said, has to be, completely registered with us. The registration for exemption, for clarification on that term there, the exemption doesn't mean that they don't do something. It means that they do file a form. It's just not the full registration, and those organizations are not required to file a financial report. So these are really small organizations that might qualify for exemption, or else they're a part of the state or a school, as we talked about earlier, who can't conduct a raffle. An organization that doesn't qualify under all three of those criteria we just went through. If they don't have an IRS letter, or if they're not registered with us properly, or if they're not formed for charitable purposes, they cannot conduct raffles if any one of those doesn't apply to them. A for-profit entity or a professional fundraiser cannot conduct a raffle. They can assist in the raffles, but they cannot be the one running the raffle. You cannot hire a professional fundraiser to run a raffle for you. The difference between a fundraiser and a for-profit entity here would be, you might have a restaurant that wants to help you with your raffle by offering to sell tickets at the restaurant for the raffle, but they're not conducting the raffle. They're just allowing their establishment to be used to conduct and purchase, or to purchase the tickets, but not to conduct the raffle. A professional fundraiser might be someone you would hire to do fundraising for you or on behalf of your organization. Those are absolutely not allowed to be involved in the raffles whatsoever. Let's talk about professional fundraisers. There's three different types. You've got fundraising councils, you've got commercial co-ventures, and then you've got a professional solicitors, which these are companies, professional solicitor companies. So the solicitor is going to be a person that, for monetary consideration, solicits contributions on behalf of a charitable organization. So you hire a professional solicitor company, and you might sign a contract with them that says, we're going to give 40% of our profits, or our revenue that's received through the contribution efforts or the solicitation efforts, to the for-profit fundraising company, and the charity is going to keep 60% of it. So the contracts will run the gamut. Sometimes the charity only gets 10%, professional solicitor gets 90%. The organizations have to make their decision on how they're going to split that and get the best contract for their purposes. But that's what a solicitor company does. They're paid a percentage of the donations that are received for the campaign. Now, if you have a professional solicitor out there, they're required to notify you at the time of the solicitation that they are a paid solicitor. They have to give you the name of the organization, the location, and the purpose of the organization that they're fundraising on behalf of, as well as the true name of their fundraising company that they are working for. So those are some requirements of a fundraising solicitor. Some examples of fundraising solicitors would be, you might get a phone call from a solicitor, could be a text message, a thrift shop sale can be considered a solicitor company, in-person bingos, and then again, we talked about commission based. This means that the organization, the fundraising company, is going to get a percentage of the proceeds that are given to the charitable organization. Commercial co-ventures, another one. Commercial co-ventures are a commercial entity, like a store, that operates for commercial trade in a normal course of business daily, or when they're open during the week or weekends. They will raise funds by advertising that if you buy this product, a percentage of the sales is going to go towards a charitable organization. That's a commercial co-venture. So there's a lot of different kinds of commercial co-ventures. You might have restaurants, you might have department stores, grocery stores, brand identity. Some examples of this might be as simple as going to a fast food drive-through and you see a sign there that says, for every chicken sandwich purchased today, 25 cents is going to go towards XYZ Booster Club. That's a commercial co-venture. They're advertising that, hey, if you buy your chicken sandwich from us versus another organization or another fast food place, your money is going to do good by going to the charity. Part of it's going to the charity. So they're enticing you to come solicit and they're enticing you to come purchase the product from them versus another store. Same thing happens in grocery stores, department stores. Brand identity, this might be as simple as
Yes, good afternoon, Dave. Tom Amaro. I'm returning a phone call. Unfortunately, I'm in the middle of another webinar.
this is
Probably won't be
L'Oreal
finished
or
until about
Ralph Lauren. They
looks
might
like
have a
about
promotion running
4:30.
in department stores where
But
they
if you can call me, or
have
I'll try
a
to call you
percentage
back
of
after I
sales
get off
off
my
of a certain
webinar
t-shirt or a
and
certain
talk
bag
to you
or a
about your mom
certain
and
makeup
what we
product
do as for
that is
Project
going to
Pro.
give a percentage
Talk
to
to
a
you later,
charitable
and my number again is
organization.
803
They
576
are
3183. Once again,
going
I'll be on a
to,
webinar
they're,
until
they're conducting a campaign that's is a commercial co-venture campaign. Professional solicitors and commercial co-ventures, they have to register. They have to file a contract, which is called a notice of solicitation, along with a contract signed by the charitable organization and the solicitor. And then at the end of the campaign, they have to file a financial report, just like our charities do. They have to tell you how much money they received in gross revenue, what expenses they incurred, how much was paid to the charitable organization. So you can see when they run these campaigns, you can see how much of the money actually goes to the charitable organization and how much of the money is kept by the fundraising entity. When anyone solicits for a charitable organization or is doing it for their own organization or another organization, they have some things that they are not allowed to do. So they cannot, no one can use the name of another charitable organization without consent. So if you had a charitable organization and you found the name of your organization on a website saying make a donation and to any one of these 100 charitable organizations, but you didn't get permission for your name to be on that website, you have a right to have that removed. They should have to get your permission. You can't imply that a person sponsors or endorses a charitable organization without their consent. You cannot imply that our office endorses an organization just because we've approved a registration here. And you should never feel pressured to give to an organization. If someone might come to you with a really emotional appeal, or the name of their organization might have a word in it that really kind of draws out some heart-wrenching feelings. People have all kinds of organizations out there that have the word cancer in them. And then of course people, they want to be helpful. And that's all okay, but you have to make sure you do your due diligence and never let anyone pressure you into giving. So here comes the tools. Here are the tools we're going to talk about that you can use on our website to find out, are these organizations registered properly? Do they have the information out there that you would like to see in order to make a wise decision when it comes to giving? So the first tool we have is on our website. We have a charitable solicitation complaint form, which you can see in the top yellow circle. That form is an anonymous complaint form. You can use that to submit the name of an organization that solicited from you, or the name of an organization you just happen to see somewhere with a table set up and they're selling something or asking people to contribute when they come in and out of a store. You can give us as much information as you have. We do not give your information out when you fill out one of these. We keep that private inside our house, inside our office. We do use the information to contact you should we need to find out more information, maybe some clarifying information on where exactly you saw the solicitation, how you received it. Maybe if it was a mail piece, we might ask you to, take a picture of it and send it, or there's a couple of different ways that we might need to contact you. But for the most part, the form's pretty comprehensive and we get as much information up front as we can. But we do ask for your contact information, but we never give it away. It never becomes public information. It is definitely kept inside and no one but the investigators see it. So there's nowhere it's going to be written down or documented. The website also has a search engine. So the search engine you can use to for everything in our office, whether it's a trademark, a notary information, forms you need for maybe business filings. But the searches also has a search feature for raffles, to see if someone's registered to conduct a raffle, for charitable organizations, and then also the professional fundraisers. We have search links for those as well, and they're all found under this search menu here. We have These are the QR codes. I put these in here so that you could use them to, these first two right here are the ones that you can use to go straight to our website and do that search. You'll have, again, the information on there will be the president's information, the location of the organization. It'll have its full legal name, any DBAs it uses while it's registered, and then it'll tell you their status. It'll tell you if an organization is suspended. It'll tell you if they're expired. It'll tell you if they're active. And if you're going to give to someone or you run across someone who is soliciting contributions, that active is what you're looking for. In addition to the active status, you will know whether or not they filed a financial report or when their next financial report is due. And you'll have the opportunity to view that report. There's a link for it. We'll bring it up on the screen and you can actually view their full 990 financial report. In addition to the search features on our website, we have a new app that we just launched last year, and it is available in the App Store and Google Play. And this app will come up on your phone, and it's the same thing as our search feature on our website, but you can use it on your phone. People have found it to be very useful when they're out shopping because there's a lot of people now that are setting up in front of stores that are soliciting on your grocery store shelf. You might find a salad dressing that has a charitable appeal on it. You can see if they're actually registered with us. That would be a commercial co-venture, but you should find that in the search if you search for the charitable organization that it says it's donating to. If you have someone out front of a store, don't hesitate to ask them, what is the charitable organization's name? Sometimes what they have displayed is a shorter form of the actual legal name. But if you ask them, you should be able to use this app, type in the name, and it'll tell you the status. Once you type in their name, this is what the app is going to look like on your screen. We've broken up into little parts to make it easier to see. So it's going to tell you whether the organization is registered or not. It's going to tell you that the organization has filed a financial report. It'll show you what year the financial report covers. So in the upper right image, you see it says 7/1/2020 to 6/30/21. That tells you that that organization filed a financial report for that fiscal year. And it tells you their total revenue, expenses, program expenses, net assets, and fundraising costs. Now, we give down in the image right below that says, according to the financial information filed, this organization devoted 92.8% of its total expenses to program services. So in other words, 92.8 cents of every dollar that was donated to them went towards carrying out their charitable purpose, the reason that they were formed, to help the people or animals in some cases, whatever it is that they were formed to serve. So this is what we're looking to see as basic information. If some people just want to know what that number is. And so we have an annual angel ceremony each year, and our criteria is 80%. It doesn't mean that someone that's at 75 is a bad organization. It's just a criteria we use to say, if you're 80% or above, we're going to take a look at you for an angel award. But that's just one of the criteria that we use. But there is no magic number on 80%, 75%, 85%, because everyone's different. And you might have, an organization may have one year where they're really strong and they have maybe 95%. And then you might have another year where maybe it's a growing year. Maybe they're receiving funding for a project that is in a future year. There's all kinds of reasons why it might happen, but you have to know, you have to look at that. You want to make sure that you click on that link where it says 2020 Form 990. You can take a look at that. The second page of that form should give you a description of what the organization is doing with the money that they're spending. And you can then make an educated and smart decision on whether or not you want to donate to this particular organization. Like I said before, make sure that when you give a donation that you are not feeling pressured in any way whatsoever to give that donation. You have every right to stop, take a minute, look at this information, and then make your decision. You can even go home and go to their website and give your donation. Then it does not have to be on site. We just want to make sure that you have some tools to use here. So that app is called GiveSmart SC mobile app. available again, like I said, on apps, on the Apple Store or Google Play. And we found this to be really, really helpful to people to make those decisions when they're coming across people out in public that are soliciting. So that is the end of my formal presentation. I am available now for any kind of questions that you might have related to charitable organizations and fundraisers and raffles, or just in general charity questions.
Well, thank you so much, Kim. That was really great. The Q&A is open for anyone who has a question for Kim. And Kim, I appreciate you being willing to take questions. That was an awesome presentation, and I have scanned the QR code and downloaded the Get Smart SC app, which is a wonderful opportunity, I think, for all of us. And I love that you guys do that, because we certainly all have seen the type of things that you're talking about, where we might need to, you know, check out a particular organization that is saying they're a charitable organization, or they're doing one of those co-ventures like you were talking about. And it's really good to be able to, you know, to do that so quickly. But I also like your suggestion about, you know, take your time. You certainly can go home and, you know, make a donation from the organization's website.
Absolutely.
And sometimes that's a better, you know, better choice, especially if you don't have this awesome app on your phone when you're checking it out. So that was great. And thank you so much for being with us. I don't see any questions at the moment, but I want to encourage our listeners to reach out to our South Carolina Secretary of State's office. It's, you know, full of information on their website. Kim is available by phone and email with the Public Charities Department. And we just, again, appreciate so much you being here, Kim, and appreciate you kicking off the webinar.
I appreciate you having me.
All right. Well, we'll move on then now
Okay.
to our next speaker, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We appreciate you being here. So next we have Crystal Strong, who is with the South Carolina Department on Aging. And Crystal is the Senior Medicare Patrol Program Manager. I want to make sure I get that right. And I can say from personal experience, Crystal is terrific. She can answer so many questions that you are wondering about and want to know the answer to. But particularly today, I want everyone to welcome Crystal to the webinar to talk in particular about Medicare scams, because, you know, right now we're in open enrollment, right? And so Crystal is very busy, and she's going to be hopping off of our webinar as soon as she's done. So Crystal, thank you so much for being here and taking some time out of your day and the important work that you're doing during open enrollment. So go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Susan, for having me here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Like Susan said, my name is Crystal Strong, and I work at the South Carolina Department on Aging. I manage 2 grant programs that are in focus are on Medicare. One is the SHIP the State Health Insurance Assistance Program, and then the Senior Medicare Patrol Program. The SHIP program focuses mainly on all things Medicare. Like she mentioned, open enrollment, which we have now going on from October 15th through December 7th. And then we have the fraud arm of Medicare, which we'll talk about today, is the Senior Medicare Patrol Program. All right, so what the Senior Medicare Patrol is tasked with doing is to empower and assist our Medicare beneficiaries, their families, and caregivers to prevent, detect, and report healthcare fraud, errors, and abuse. We do this through outreach, we do counseling, and education. We are grant funded. We receive our funds from the federal government. The arm is the Administration for Community Living. And whereas I'm in South Carolina, I am in Columbia. But in all of the state, we're broken up into 10 regions. So there is someone in every region that is there to assist Medicare beneficiaries, whether it is related to the fraud that we're talking about today or about your Medicare options. Basically any questions that you have about Medicare, there is somebody here to help you navigate through that maze. Right? So we're talking about scams and fraud today. We mentioned that it is open enrollment time, and this is a time where a lot of people are getting scammed, or not even just scammed. It could be that they're giving, or they are heavily inundated with phone calls and mailings about open enrollment. So different plans that are available. So you're going to have all different kinds of marketing going on around this time, and it can be very confusing, and it also can look really, really great on one side, but however may not be the best option for that beneficiary. So during this time, there are limits that Medicare places on how these plans can contact you. So they can't call you if you don't already have a relationship with their company. If you're not already a part of that Medicare Advantage plan or prescription drug plan, they can't cold call you. And they can't send you emails if you haven't agreed to that form of contact. If you've gone to a presentation that one of these groups is giving and you signed your name on their list to receive emails, then of course they're allowed to do that, but they are allowed to send you unsolicited ones. They can't come to your home to sell you products without an invitation. If they were down the street going to talk to your neighbor and your neighbor sent them over to you, they are not allowed to do that. They must make an appointment where you agreed to it in some shape, form, or fashion. And they can't leave flyers or door hangers or leaflets on your car or at your home. They can't come in these public areas such as doctor's offices and start selling their products. There are certain ways that they have to do it according to what Medicare or CMS guidelines are. And if you think that someone has done this to you, you can always report it. On all these slides will be our national number, but I will give you our number for South Carolina at the end of the presentation. During this open enrollment time, there are ways that people can change their plans. We ask that you contact our office for an unbiased opinion about or unbiased comparisons about particular plans. We don't care which plans you actually enroll in. We want to make sure that you enroll in the one that suits your needs. But right now, people are preying on beneficiaries through the phone. Agents can't call you and threaten to take away your benefits if you don't sign up for their plan. They can't offer you gifts to agree to sign up. If they are conducting a presentation to someone or some entity, or they're at a health fair and they have a table with gifts on them, they cannot hold back a gift if you don't sign up for their particular plan. What they give one person, they have to give the next person. If you see that occurring, then you might want to report that as well. Also, with changing plans, watch out for excuse me, I can't even get the word out, social media scams. So posts cannot suggest that Medicare endorses or prefers their plans. You see a lot of these commercials that are coming on TV these days. I actually encountered one when on my way into work. I heard one of their commercials about getting a Medicare Advantage product. They say at the bottoms of the screens, if you see them, that they are not endorsed. So they cannot put out on social media that Medicare says that you should join this plan. That's illegal. They cannot claim there are any extra benefits for signing up early. You can only sign up when open enrollment begins, and that began October the 15th. If anybody was caught in there, please let us know. When we have the opportunity to help you get out of said plan if you thought that you got into it in the wrong way, or you were misled to join a certain plan. During changing this plan, during this time, especially during open enrollment, watch out for in-person scams. As I mentioned, they can't come to your door if they were not invited. If they come and you invited them and they are coming to talk about Medicare Advantage plans, but that agent also can sell you life insurance, or they're eligible to sell life insurance, they can't talk about life insurance during your meeting about an Advantage plan. They have to make a separate meeting to come back because sometimes they loop individuals in and they sell them all types of products that they may not necessarily need. Not saying that everybody does that, but you have a few people out there that actually try to bypass that rule. So if you felt that you were coerced into buying something that you didn't really need nor want, please reach out to us and let us know. One of the things that we see the most of, and I actually received an email from somebody the other day in reference to a Medicare card. Medicare cards are only paper, as you see on the screen. There are no plastic cards coming from Medicare. They put out new cards earlier during COVID around 2020. New cards came out, and they did this to remove your Social Security numbers from it because too many people were giving out their Medicare number, which in turn is your Social Security number, which results in identity theft. It could be financial, it could be something else as well, not just a healthcare component. So they removed the number, your social, and they placed it with the de-identifying number, which is a series of numbers and letters. You would be surprised how many people still give out that information to someone who just called them. And we always say, if you did not initiate that call, please do not give anybody any pertinent information about you, your name, birthday, Medicare number, none of that. So you're not getting a new card. If there's someone calls you or calls someone that you know that has Medicare saying that they're getting a new card, that is not the case. We are not, I say that we, because I'm a part of Medicare, not sending out new cards at this time, okay? Excuse me. So to piggyback on that, you're not getting one with a microchip. We had somebody call about that. There's not a hard plastic black one, looks like a black credit card, none of that. And because it's open enrollment, you are not getting a new card. The only new card you will receive in the mail during this time, during open enrollment, is if you've chosen to join a different plan or new plan, like a Medicare Advantage product. You will get a card from said plan that you've joined, but no new Medicare card. And in talking about cards that come from the Medicare Advantage company, do not get rid of your Medicare card. Although you may not use it because you've joined a Medicare Advantage product, you still want to maintain your Medicare card in case, one, you go back to traditional Medicare, or if it's needed at a later date for some other reason. But don't get rid of your card, and don't let anybody talk you into giving them information to tell you that you're getting a new one at this time, because that's not happening. And with the giving out of the Medicare number, which we tell people do not, unless you initiate that call, a lot of what we're seeing with these Medicare numbers, once they call you, yes, they may have your name, they may have your address, but if we all know that if you have somebody's address, you can do a reverse search on the white pages online and find somebody's name associated with that home. So they can have your name, they could have gotten it from a list that the doctor's office sold them, but they don't have the pertinent information that they need to do the things that they want to do with your Medicare number. So when you give it to them, then it releases them to be able to conduct fraud on your number. So with DME, that's the durable medical equipment, like the wheelchairs, walkers, canes. We have seen an uptick, not just in our state, but all over the country, about braces, neck braces, back braces, all of those. And then one of the things that we've seen is they will contact you. Sorry, my light time's out. And here they will contact you and say that, ask you if you have some type of ailment, back problems. We all know as we get older, we're gonna have back problems, knee problems, all kind of problems. So all they need is that word yes, and they insert that yes into their conversation where they need it. And then unfortunately, you now have been charged for medical equipment that you did not request. So don't, make sure you read your Medicare summary notice when it comes. A lot of people don't look at that in the mail because on the top of it, it says this is not a bill. So they don't open it up. They're not bothered with it. Well, you want to make sure that you were not charged for some services and or products that you did not ask for or that you did not receive. So refuse, as they say, and report any equipment or supplies offered for free. Because as we know, nothing in life, as we were taught, it's free. And if that's what they're offering in some shape, form, or fashion, you will be charged for that product. Also, watch out for scams surrounding the coronavirus pandemic. Protect your Medicare number. And be cautious of people going door to door offering free tests, supplies, or treatments. If in fact you need anything related to COVID, talk to your doctor. Go to a reputable location to get a COVID test if you need it. If you need the COVID vaccine, that is something that Medicare pays for in full, and you can obtain that in your doctor's office as well as urgent cares and so forth. But people going around offering them for free, Medicare does not pay for that. So don't fall for the scare tactics because time sensitive or anything like that. And I know that those that prey on these beneficiaries will scare them. One lady called and said that someone called her, and they called her on a Saturday. Most likely, if it's a reputable business or it's somebody that is legitimate, they're not working on a Saturday to ask you about coronavirus test or the testing or back braces. It's going to usually be done during normal business hours, and Saturdays and Sundays are not normal business hours, especially for things like this. Genetic testing. Be leery of these individuals that offer to swab your cheek. They go into these housing communities, they go into senior centers and claim that Medicare will cover this in full. That's not necessarily the case. If you think that you may have cancer or family history of cancer and want to be tested, go to your primary care physician and let them order that test and Medicare pay for it. Because in a lot of cases we've seen that they go door to door, these people get these tests, and then unfortunately Medicare may not pay the bill, and then they may be stuck with the bill, or Medicare actually does pay it along with their secondary or supplemental insurance, or may not pay it in full, and then they're still stuck with a bill for something that they thought was going to be free. If it's something that you desire to have, I always say go through the doctor in order for them to order it for you. We warn people about hospice scams. Those persons that are receiving hospice services more than likely are not going to get cancer treatment or life-saving surgery. Because you're in hospice, you have that terminal diagnosis. And in most cases, Medicare is not going to do those life-sustaining measures for you. So they're obtaining people's information and trying to get other tests ordered with their numbers. Also be wary of and check often to make sure that your Medicare benefits are intact and you haven't been put on hospice by mistake or sometimes on purpose. We had one lady whose husband was on hospice and the facility came in, legitimate facility came in, signed him up for hospice, but inadvertently added her to it as well. And it wasn't caught till she went to the doctor's office and could not get the services that she needed because they had placed her in hospice, and vice versa. You don't want any of that to happen. So periodically check your Medicare and those Medicare summary notices, big things that come in the mail as well. We also want you to report nursing home fraud, errors, and abuse. These people go into nursing homes and target individuals who are there, may be actually covered under Medicaid possibly, and then they are getting their Medicare numbers and using them to get services, order more expensive services than they need or was provided. They order more therapy than what you were provided. If you were in a nursing home and you are getting some type of physical therapy and your loved one is receiving that bill and they notice that, mom or dad got all of this therapy and they know it's not happening, we definitely want you to report it. Those EOBs, which is what you get from an Advantage plan or your Medicare summary notice, you'll want to take a look at those. We've run into a lot of people who don't look at those summary notices, and when they actually need the service that Medicare is going to provide them, because that is their basic benefit, they've gotten a denial. And want to know why they've gotten a denial? Because Medicare says you already received this service, whether it's a wheelchair, whether it's a walker, and they only pay for it ever so often. There's a time frame for those things. And if you've gotten one within the last 5 years and you go to get one and it really wasn't you, then we notice there's fraud going on and we want to help you get through that. But the easiest way to do it is don't ever give out your Medicare number unless you're initiating that call. And definitely check your Medicare summary notices that come in the mail as well. You can get them in the mail quarterly because that's the way Medicare distributes them, or you can create a mymedicare.gov account and see your records in real time, not just for yourself, but for your loved ones if you are taking care of them as well. These are just some signs of identity theft, and I know others will cover this as well, but we see this especially with the Medicare number. And Medicare numbers turn into they've given out socials, which can snowball into effect. The one thing that I want people to know is if you give out your Medicare number at any time, whether we are open and you call us, if you do it, the number one place you need to contact first is 1-800-Medicare so that you can report your number as compromised. There are, in certain cases, they are able to give you a new Medicare number, but we want to prevent you having to get that by you not giving it out when you shouldn't. But if, in fact, you gave it out, the number one place to call first is 1-800-Medicare to report that. Then you can call us and then we can report it as well and get some of the information to report that entity that you've given your number to if you catch it. But call them first so that they put a block on it and that they know that it's been compromised. In case something comes through, then we'll be able to report it and or send it back. You'll be able to get, Medicare will be able to recoup their funds, okay? So with all that I said, this is the time that unfortunately people prey on individuals during the holiday season. So with Thanksgiving rolling around next week, we want to give thanks, not our personal information. Make sure that you report anything that you may feel suspicious with your Medicare number, medical identity theft to our office. And we'll be happy to assist you in any way we can. If that person calls on the phone, I always say, if you don't recognize the number, don't answer. If it is important, they will leave you a message. And therefore, you can call back at a time that is convenient to you if you wish to do so. Doctor's offices, whatever, they always leave a message if you do not answer, okay? And if you are so inclined, we are always looking for volunteers, not just on the SMP side, but also that SHIP side. If you want to help beneficiaries by giving out presentations like this one, you want to do administrative work, you want to do one-on-one counseling, we are here and we would be glad to have you. If this is something that interests you, please give me a call and I'll put you in touch with the coordinator for your region. But if you know someone else, pass this along. We'll be happy to take you. And I'd like to thank you for your participation today. This is my information on the screen, my email address. If you think of any questions afterwards. Doesn't have to pertain to fraud. It could be just general Medicare questions. I'll be happy to answer them. Our toll-free number can be given for persons that want to report fraud, and or my direct phone number as well. So thank you for having me today.
Thanks so much, Crystal. That's great information. Very, very interesting about all the ways that those fraudsters and schemers are trying to get your information.
Mhm.
Very helpful tips about, looking at your EOB and checking your bank account for something you shouldn't have been charged with. Great information. We do have one, that's not exactly a question, but one of our participants did mention when you were talking about the COVID test that not everyone has a doctor to go to get the test. So can you address how people can get a COVID test if they're not?
You can go, if they have Medicare, they can go to like urgent care. And I say urgent care, like, I don't call it doctor, well, doctor's care or one of those urgent care centers and get it as well. Sometimes it also can be done at like CVS. CVS has the Minute Clinic. You can give them your Medicare card, and that is a covered preventative benefit through them as well.
Okay. And so what about our viewers who are not on Medicare? Do you know
What-
any
if you're-
resources for that?
If you're not on Medicare yet, then and you have insurance, then you can, of course, your insurance will pay for it wherever you go, because that is a preventative benefit, just like the flu shot. However, without insurance, unfortunately, that's something that a beneficiary or an individual is going to have to pay on their own.
Mhm.
There aren't a lot of places now that actually will do the COVID test like they were doing before.
Yeah, I think initially you could get a free COVID test or multiple free COVID tests in the mail. You could do yourself.
You can still do them you can get the COVID test in the mail. If you're looking for the vaccine, you have to go to a provider to do it. But the COVID test, I actually just got some, I want to say through the regular mail, sent it. I can find a link and then I can send it to you, Susan, if you want to send it out. But there are still free COVID tests. I actually just got 4 not too long ago.
Well, that's why I was thinking that maybe there was still some of that. So yeah, if you can send me that and I'll share it with everybody
Okay.
with their email. Let me see if we have any other questions for you. Well, it looks like that's it. And Crystal, thank you so much. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate the work that you guys do at the Department on Aging, and particularly for our seniors with the Medicare issues that come up. It's really great information, and of course, as I said before, we are recording this webinar. We'll be posting it on our YouTube channel, so any of our listeners can, kind of go back and find it there at our YouTube channel. So you keep up the good work, and
Thank you.
hopefully
Thank
you
you.
will get through open enrollment mostly unscathed.
Thank you so much, Susan. Take care.
Thank you. And I want to ask you to join me in welcoming Takesha Waller. Takesha is the senior investigator at South Carolina Office of Regulatory Staff. And today she is going to talk to us about utility shutoff scams. And I do want to encourage everyone, if you have questions or comments, you can put them in the Q&A on your screen, and please do that. But otherwise, Takesha, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Susan. Can you hear me okay? Okay. All right. I wanted to kind of give you guys some background information about the Office of Regulatory Staff. Before I get into my presentation, the South Carolina Office of Regulatory Staff was created in 2004 with Act 175. And what we are charged with doing is representing consumers with the investor-owned utilities. So we are the regulatory body for the Public Service Commission. The responsibilities of the Office of Regulatory Staff, we have our Consumer Services Department. And And what our Consumer Services Department does is we mediate between the consumers and the utilities of South Carolina, whether that be your electric, your gas, your telecommunications. So when you're having that issue with your utility and you feel that you're not able to get it resolved, our Consumer Services Department may be able to mediate to help you with that. One of the things that we do, it resolves a vast majority of the complaints, as I said, on an informal basis. So what happens is a consumer will contact us when they haven't been able to get the issue resolved with their utility, and then we will contact the utility to gain information to see if we can resolve that issue on an informal basis before it goes to a formal process through the Public Service Commission. What we also do is we try to educate consumers so that they can make informed choices and understand their rights, so that when they are dealing directly with their utilities, they know what to ask. They know the things to expect. They know what their rights are as a consumer. We also have a safety department here at the Office of Regulatory Staff, and this department handles railroad, natural gas, and pipeline safety within South Carolina. They also serve as the contact for assisting utilities in restoration. Quite like our previous hurricane that we had, our safety department was involved with making sure that everything was getting back up to the way that it should be on the utility side from the storm. We have a transportation department that has regulatory oversight of the licensing, including enforcement of insurance and rates, and that's for motor carriers, passenger taxis, charter buses, limousines, and those types of vehicles. We also have household good movers within South Carolina that we have some oversight over as well. As I said previously, we oversee the Universal Service Fund, which is part of the telecommunications. We also have the Dual Party Relay Fund that provides telephone access to deaf and hearing and speech impaired Americans. The Energy Office is another branch within the Office of Regulatory Staff, and they serve as the main energy planning organization for South Carolina. They have a lot to do with developing the state energy plan, providing any technical assistance, conducting education and outreach, and maintaining energy data resources. We have a broadband department here as well that aims to provide reliable internet service to those areas, underserved areas within the state. So now that you know what our agency is primarily for, now let's discuss what your rights as a consumer is, so that you know what your rights are, so you know when you're dealing with someone who may be violating those rights or who may be operating outside of the rights that you have as a consumer. So they will help you be able to identify if you may be a victim of a scam or someone is potentially trying to scam you. One of the things you do is you have the right to establish service. The utility cannot deny a consumer from applying for service. And I like to reiterate that they cannot deny applying. That does not mean that you will actually get service, because there are processes and things in place that the utility will have to verify before service is given, and that may stop a consumer from being able to get the service, but they cannot deny you for making the application. The consumer may need to provide access to their property. It is not abnormal, for the utility to may have to come on the premises in order to verify. For example, if a customer is getting gas service, they want to make sure that there are no leaks or no issues within the home that would cause a danger if they were to establish service. And for those reasons, the utility may need access to your property. Consumers may be required to post a deposit on their account based upon potentially the history of the account or the credit of the particular person who is applying. A deposit may be needed, and the company does have the right to impose a deposit in order to secure an account. Disconnections. You have the right to written notice from the utility prior to being disconnected. So not less than 10 days prior to the termination of your service, the utility shall provide a notice of termination to that potential customer. And not more than 2 business days prior to the termination of service, the utility shall make reasonable efforts, and that's either by phone or in person, to contact the customer that is subject to being disconnected. And I wanted to read that verbatim because the scams that are out now, people are reaching out to customers and requiring immediate payment with no notification from the utility and no conversations that are had. The utility must provide notice that your service is in jeopardy of being disconnected. They will not just call you out of the blue without having sent some notification to you advising you that your service is potentially in jeopardy of disconnection. Payment plans. You have the right to set up a payment plan before your service is disconnected. These types of payment plans are the deferred payment plan, and it requires the consumer to not only keep their service current, but also get the option of having no less than 1/6 of the outstanding balance being able to be paid. So what that means is they will take the balance that you owe, break that up into payments, plus what your current bill amount is. And what that does is help you to get that past due paid while keeping you current so that it can try to get you out of the situation that could be potentially negative or put you into a disconnection potential. Any agreement to extend a deferred payment cutoff date by more than 5 working days is considered a deferred payment plan. Some people are confused on what is considered a deferred payment plan, and I just wanted to reiterate that. Meters. You have the right to have your meter tested for accuracy. Each utility shall at any time, when requested in writing by a consumer, and they are now allowing consumers to request that verbally over the phone, upon reasonable notice, to test the accuracy of the meter that they have on their premises. In the event that the meter is found to have an error in registration, and this error of no more than 2%, the bill will be increased or decreased accordingly. So if there is an error that is found on the meter, then the company will make the adjustment for the customer. You have the right to have your utility explain the method of reading your meter, which means as for the regulated utilities on your bill, it will tell you how the company is gauging the usage that you have, whether that be kilowatts or gallons, for example, for water. Your bill will show what measurement they are using in order to properly bill you for your usage. You have the explanation of your bill is provided. The bill will show you the readings from the beginning and at the end of the period for which that particular bill is being rendered. It will have the date that your meter is read, the date of billing, and the latest date on which the amount owed must be paid without incurring a penalty or a late fee. It'll tell you the number and kind of units measured, which is what I previously discussed. The rate schedule or identification of the applicable rate, whether that would be a residential rate, a business. If you are a business, then you may have a business rate on the account, but your bill will indicate what particular rate you are being billed. It will also indicate if there were an issue with your meter and your bill had to be estimated, that will be identified on your bill to let you know this particular reading or this particular bill involves an estimated read, that there may have been some issue, whether your meter stopped or there was an error in getting it, it will identify that it was estimated. And it will also tell you the amount that is due for your bill. You have the right to contact your utility. Emergencies and unscheduled interruptions may happen, and your utility bill will have a number provided that will allow you to be able to get in contact with them. And they do have after hours numbers and ways for you to reach them during those time periods. One of the things that we put into consideration for consumers is solar. There are a lot more customers now that are getting involved in solar, and they created Act 62, which is the South Carolina Energy Freedom Act. And the Office of Regulatory Staff, along with the South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs, who will be presenting later on in this presentation, were directed to develop consumer protections as a result of what we were seeing as solar started to get more traction in South Carolina. And these protections are regarding the sale and lease of renewable energy generation facilities pursuant to the distributed energy resources to comply with Chapter 40. Sellers must comply with the rules and laws that are set forth now for solar. So we do urge consumers to be mindful of that when they are dealing with solar companies. Some of the complaints that we were receiving involving solar were misrepresentation and empty promises. Companies were promising savings that there was no way that they would be able to guarantee. Anything from you won't have a bill at all, or they can guarantee the exact amount that you would be able to pay each month. They cannot guarantee that because there are too many factors that are involved with that. So there's no way for them to guarantee that. Companies were promising incentives and rebates that they also cannot provide. And companies were not providing proper and complete paperwork. There was a point where they were going into contracts with individuals, specifically seniors, and they were doing this information via iPads. So once these contracts were in place, the consumer had no copies of this paperwork. They didn't know clearly what they were signing because everything was done electronically, and they were committing themselves to these long-term contracts in dollar amounts, and they had no idea what they were actually signing. So be very careful when you're signing anything that you don't have copies of that you will now be responsible for. Consumer rights, another part of the consumer rights with solar protection is companies shall not use deceptive marketing. As I stated previously, they were making these promises to consumers in order to get them under contracts that they were not able to keep. Companies must provide the total price to be paid to that customer, and it must advise them if maintenance and repairs are included. So if that is something that you are considering and you have someone who's coming to you with the offer to purchase, please make sure that you know exactly what you are paying for and how long you will be paying for this. The company must provide disclosures if any estimated savings is projected and must disclose how these savings are calculated. This ensures that they're not just pulling these numbers out of the sky to make it sound good to you when in fact these numbers are not something that they can guarantee. Customers over 70 or over must be provided with written copy of the agreement. And this ensures that if you choose to have this copy electronically, you have that right. But customers 70 or over must be provided a written copy of any agreements for their contracts. Companies must provide contact information. We had complaints that were coming in that once they signed the contract, they had no way of being able to contact the company that they are now contracted with. Companies shall advise the customer their right to cancel. They were not being made aware that they had the ability to cancel once these contracts were put in place. So now we'll get into avoiding utility scams. I wanted to make sure that you understood what your rights were and how the ORS was able to inform you of what you should expect when dealing with with utility companies, so that you know if you're being approached some way that's outside of this norm, that your antenna goes up that this could potentially be a scam. So now we'll get into some of the common scams that we have been hearing of. One of the common scams was on-site scams, where these people just show up to your house, knocking on the door, pretending that they're from the utility company, offering audits or claiming that there is some type of leak. Anytime someone shows up to your home from the utility, the vehicle that they're driving is identifiable because there is marked. There's some sort of label that would be on the vehicle that would identify them as an employee. They would have identification. Please ensure that if you are dealing with a utility person that comes to your home, that there is some sort of identification that they can provide, whether it's a badge to identify who they are. Unsolicited calls demanding payment to avoid disconnection of service. Again, as I stated previously, they're requiring prepaid cards, gift cards, cryptocurrency, or wire transfers. Your utility company will not demand immediate payment in specific ways if your service is being in jeopardy of being disconnected. You will have received proper notification prior to this that your service is potentially being disconnected. And at that point, they will tell you to contact the company to make these payments. They won't be taking payments from you by calling you to do that. Beware of phishing emails claiming to be from the utility, seeking your bank information. The utility company is not going to request your banking information. So if you get an email supposedly from your utility requesting this information, it is very likely that this email is going to be some sort of phishing opportunity for a scammer. Aggressive sales of expensive, unnecessary equipment or repairs. The utility company is not going to be aggressive in their tactics when they're selling you, if they are offering you things that their company may be offering. So if this particular salesperson is aggressive and this is expensive and unnecessary, and you know that, please do not commit or agree to accept these pieces of equipment. Claims that you overpaid and are due a refund just to get your banking information. If you made a payment to your utility company and you happen to have overpaid, you would see a credit on your utility company and they would already know the ways in which to refund that. The question they would ask you was, would that be a credit on your account? Or if you requested through the company to have that payment returned to you, then that would be a conversation you would have directly with the company, but they would not be requiring your banking information because you would have already made that payment and they would have that information. Claims to give preferential treatment to restore service if a fee is paid. During the most recent hurricane, the utility companies were working to get all of the consumers back up and running, and there was no way that you could pay a certain fee in order for them to get your services on sooner. So please be aware that if you are ever approached by any so-called utility worker claiming that for payment you will receive preferential treatment to restore service, please understand that this is a scam. How do you avoid potential scams? As I mentioned earlier, I alluded to, always ask for ID. If there is a legitimate utility employee at your home, they will have ID. They will have as I said before, an identifiable vehicle to let you know what utility they are representing. Never give out personal information over the phone. If someone calls you to solicit unwanted information, hang up. Do not give out your personal information. If you suspect that this person, if say your utility company calls you and this person is asking for a lot of this identifiable information, hang up and call your utility directly. Not based on the number that called you previously, actually call from the number based on your bill so that you know you are actually speaking directly to your utility. Never provide someone coming to your home with a bill, because what that would allow them to do is now they actually have your information. As they came to the door, they were in a scamming position and they only had very limited information. So when you provide them your bill, now they have everything they need to complete the scam that they were trying to attempt on you. Your utility company would already have your information, so they would not be asking you for a bill when they come to the home. Ask questions. If it doesn't feel right, as I said before, hang up and call your utility directly. Never feel like you're asking too many questions or that you may be doing too much when someone calls you unsolicited or shows up to your home unsolicited. If it doesn't feel right, continue to ask questions or just close the door or hang up the phone. Never agree to pay or send money without doing your own research and follow up. As I said, your utility will not request payment from you from gift cards, cryptocurrency, or prepaid cards. So any request made in that manner is a scam. Never let anyone in your home unless you can confirm that they are employed by the utility. As I said before, never feel awkward for calling the utility to verify that they in fact have an employee at your home. in your neighborhood, on your street, and that they are in fact supposed to be where they say they are. And I know sometimes those conversations can be awkward, but your safety is more important. So don't worry about making that person feel awkward. Verify that they are who they say they are before allowing anyone into your home. And I wanted to point out, for any complaints that you may be receiving, you have the right to have your questions or complaints properly and thoroughly investigated by your utility. You also have the right to call the ORS, Consumer Services, if you need assistance, if you've tried to get a complaint or issue resolved to your company. Feel free to give us a call. Or if you felt like you're not quite sure how you're supposed to do that, the ORS would be able to assist you with that as well. Also understand that you have the right to file a formal complaint with the Public Service Commission and request a hearing if you're unable to resolve your complaint, again, by working with your utility or with the ORS Consumer Services. And that is the end of my presentation. Here is my contact information if you have any additional questions or concerns that you may need to reach me here. And I'm also available now if you have any questions as well.
Well, great, Takesha, thank you so much. Fascinating to think about all the ways that scammers can get into our pockets and our information, but also I appreciate all of the information that you laid out about the Office of Regulatory Staff, because there's so much that you all do, and I think there's so many people that don't realize what you do and how you can help and the information that you have to provide. So I really appreciate that. I don't see that we have any questions yet, but I did want to ask one myself. You mentioned the over 70, that if a consumer is over 70, that they are supposed to get those written documents. I think that was in the solar
Yes.
part. And so I wanted to make sure, did they have to ask for that, or is it automatically required to be given if they're over 70?
It's required, but the customer can also ask for that. They're supposed to do it for 70 and older, but if you're not 70 or older, you can always request to have hard copy documents as well.
Right, any age you can
Yes, ma'am.
request it. And I think that's important to do because so often now, signing for contracts or service or any of that is done with iPads and iPhones, and it doesn't really give people, a good opportunity to review what they're signing.
Right.
I think it's always traditionally been bad enough when you're signing a paper contract or document to not feel bad about reading the entire thing before you sign it. But, we're all supposed to know what we're signing, and we're held to that. So it's just really so important. And now I think there's even more hesitation for consumers to actually read what they're signing because it's on that iPad and, everything's, so it just moves so fast, I think. So
Always held up the process, because when you hand me papers, if I'm responsible for signing something, I'm going to read it. And I understand that you're standing there, you're watching me, and well, you can stand there to let me read what I'm signing, because I know this makes me responsible for whatever it is I'm agreeing to, and I want to know what that is. So, and that's why I encourage people, do not worry about them standing there or whether they're watching you. Do what feels best for you. Know what you're committing yourself to.
totally agree. And, such good tips from you for the sort of the door to door when somebody just appears at your door regarding utilities, because I know I've heard, various, I never thought about that they might ask for a copy of your bill and you might just, hand it to them. I think we are very trusting of people sometimes, but I have heard, stories of somebody comes to the door and says, "Hey, I'm from such and such, power company, electric company, gas, whatever it is, and we're in your neighborhood today providing free
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Mhm.
I have heard, stories of that. And, people have told me, well, I said, I'm not interested, but we're giving out free in your neighborhood, and
Mhm.
then they say, well, I'm gonna call the utility company. This one story, the person was kind of offended, I think,
Mhm.
that the homeowner was distrustful of them,
Mhm.
because it turned out it was legitimate,
Mhm.
but they were, you know, kind of put off by that. They had a vehicle that was not marked,
Mhm.
with the utility company or anything like that. So I think the homeowner was right to, ask for credentials, call their own utility company. And so these are just really great tips that I really appreciate you sharing with us today. So thank you so much for being with us. I know you have to move on. Y'all are busy doing the great work for the people of South Carolina. So
Yes.
thanks so much for being with us,
Thank you
Takesha.
for having me.
And I encourage our viewers to reach out to the Office of Regulatory Staff if they have any questions after today. If you have questions now, Takesha will, I'm sure, be available, not right away, because I think she's got something else she's got to move on to.
Back to
But
you.
thank you for sharing your information, your contact information. It's very good to have, and we appreciate the work you do. So
Thank
thank
you
you
so
very
much.
much.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. All right. So our next speaker is Jim Copeland. Jim is or the Chief Enforcement Officer, or attorney, I should say, Chief Enforcement Attorney at the South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs. And he is substituting in for Scott Cook, who was originally going to be speaking to us today as the Communications Director at the Department of Consumer Affairs on identity theft and identity theft awareness. So, Jim, thank you so much for being with us. And if you have some slides to share, you can just go ahead and click that screen share for us. And we sure do appreciate the work that y'all do at the South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs. You've got that identity theft hotline and everything, so we really do appreciate you being here.
Oh goodness. Well, thank you. Thank you for having us. Thank you for everything y'all do. And of course, all of the participants and panelists today all do fantastic work for our consumers. So special thanks to everyone and to all of you joining us. I know Scott Cook, our public information director, was on the agenda for today to talk to you, but he's under the weather, so I get the wonderful privilege of being here and speaking to you all regarding identity theft. And very timely because next month, December, is in fact Identity Theft Awareness Month. So, very timely topic. My name is Jim Copeland. I am the Chief Enforcement Attorney at the South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs. So, of course, if you have any questions, I would imagine some folks are watching the chat box for me in case. There we go. Okay. In case any pop up. Otherwise, hopefully we have enough time for a few questions. I know that I'm backed up against a break, but we're going to make sure not to carve into that for you all.
That's totally fine, Jim, and I'll keep an eye on the Q&A box for any questions that anyone has.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So let's get started. And of course, in true attorney fashion, I do have to throw out a disclaimer that anything that you and I and us all discuss today does not create any attorney-client privilege. It's not confidential, so please do not share any super secret information on our presentation today. Also, what we're going over today is really not meant to be a substitute for any laws that we discuss, which aren't too many today, but we don't want we don't want you to think that this presentation is a substitute for reading those laws. We're trying to do kind of a 10,000-foot view. So of course, seek legal counsel. Make sure you, if you have any questions, request guidance from our office on any law that we administer and enforce. And with that, we're going to kind of lay out a little bit of what we're talking about today. First and foremost, we're going to go over what exactly identity theft is, and then we're going to go over some red flags on how to identify identity theft and how you can protect your information. And then, God forbid, if you are a victim, what resources are available to you as a victim of identity theft. So, what is identity theft? Basically, it's what it sounds like. It is when someone uses your personal or financial information without your permission, and they commit a fraud with that information. So, like I said earlier, December is Identity Theft Awareness Month, and unfortunately, in the state of South Carolina, we do have instances of folks falling victim to identity theft. So, in receiving complaints from consumers that have fallen victim to identity theft, there are a lot of myths that the department has heard. And I want to be sure to dispel some of those more common myths today. So, identity theft is easy to recover from. Another myth is I'll know right away if my identity is stolen. How about this one? Oh, I'll just get a new social security number. No need to worry about it. Personal information like my birthday is useless to criminals. Finances are the only thing affected by identity theft. And lastly, but not leastly, there is nothing you can do to protect yourself from identity theft. These are all myths. There are things you can do to protect yourself from thieves that are trying to use your information. So how can your information be used? Let's see here. Identity thieves do all kinds of things with your information. They can buy things with your credit cards, debit cards, or any of your other financial information that they are able to obtain. They get new credit cards or loans in your name, which we see commonly. They open a phone, electricity, or gas account in your name. Utility fraud is unfortunately something we see also. And as a matter of fact, us kind of coming into the beginning of, or the end of the year and the start of the new year, beginning of tax season, they can steal your tax refund. That is unfortunately something we also see a lot of. Another one that can cause folks a lot of expense, a lot of grief, a lot of collection calls and the like is they can use your health insurance, believe it or not, to get medical care. Also, they can pretend to be you if they get arrested. Now, as you can imagine, someone pretending to be you if they get arrested can cause you all kinds of grief if you are not aware of it until, a sheriff or someone comes knocking on your door and wondering why you didn't show up for court. So how does identity theft happen? And believe it or not, the number one way that identity theft happens is us. We, believe it or not, can unintentionally give somebody some information that they use to open a financial account, to get health insurance, to do any of those things that we mentioned on the last slide. Another way that identity theft happens are security breaches. Now, in the last couple of years, we all have been a victim of security breaches, I am sure. Last year in the state of South Carolina, we had roughly twice as many reports of a security breach. Well, let me rephrase. We had twice as many reported individuals that had their information breached than are citizens in the state of South Carolina. So that means last year, every one of us had our information breached at least twice. That's a scary thought when you think about it, but I also want to temper that fear with just because your information is breached does not mean that you will be a victim of identity theft. So that's important. Another way that it happens, lost or stolen wallets. Every day we walk into a restaurant or something like that to buy a good or a service. We pull out our wallet, our debit card, and we put it down. We're talking to somebody in the checkout line and don't realize that we've put our wallet down and walk away without it. Unfortunately, somebody behind us sees that, and most of the time you might get a tap on the shoulder and say, "Hey, Jim, you left your wallet." But sometimes folks don't and are not as honest. So they pick it up and go on about their business of either selling your information or, using it for their own purposes to your detriment. Another way that it happens, and this is an unfortunate circumstance that we see a lot of, theft by family and friends. Now, this is exceedingly difficult because in order to fill out identity theft affidavits, to be able to establish yourself as an identity theft victim, you need to have a police report. And unfortunately, a lot of the identity theft that happens by family and friends does not get reported, because as you can imagine, aunts, uncles, grandmas, parents are very reluctant to call the police on their niece, nephew, grandson, granddaughter, son, daughter. So unfortunately, some of those are the most difficult cases that we deal with, just because of the sensitivity of that, and having to explain to people, it's like, look, if you want this fixed, then you're going to have to tell on your family member. So another way that it happens is stolen mail. That happens quite a bit, especially around the holidays. Now that we're coming into the holiday season, people are sending each other cards with money in it. Of course, never ever send cash in the mail, but even checks these days. If you notice, the check has your routing number and your checking account number, your name and your address, and sometimes folks even put their driver's license number on their checks too. So watch out for stolen mail.
Hey, Jim, we have a question that I think
Yes, ma'am.
is relevant to the slide that you just had. And
Okay.
the question is, how do you know that they have stolen your identity, or that they're using your social security number for some kind of employment or
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Super great question. Unfortunately, some instances are easier to tell than others. For example, someone steals some of your financial information. We here at the department, we always recommend that you, and we'll get to some of the tips and tricks here in just a minute. But you want to always be sure that you keep an eye on your financial accounts. Check your checking account. Check, in the age of electronic stuff, people have apps on their phone with their bank accounts. So check HIT every chance you get. Just make sure that, what you think is going on in there is actually going on in there, and something that you don't expect is not happening. If you get your paper statements once a month, make sure you sit down and go over those every single month for every account you have. Sometimes some of the other identity theft, for example, employment, is a little bit harder to catch, because usually our folks that we see don't see that until some kind of adverse employment decision is happening. But another way to tell, and this also goes for some of the other instances that the questioner asked, check your credit report. Check your credit report often. Check your credit report often. I cannot stress that enough, and we'll get a slide here in a minute and I'll tell you how to do that. But nowadays you can get a credit report from each of the 3 bureaus for free once a week. So of course, if you're one of the folks that wants to check it every week, by all means, but at the very least, you need to check it regularly. Get on a schedule. So that's the easiest. That's the easiest way to tell. That credit report is going to be really kind of your first line of defense. Great question. Hope that answers it. Let me know if not, throw it in there. So I want you to keep an open mind about scammers and identity thieves. We need to remember that scams, identity theft is a multi-billion-dollar a year industry. You're talking about people with budgets that that rival some of the big Fortune 500 companies. So these folks are sophisticated. I don't want you to think, oh, identity theft only happens one way and not this way. Or, I don't want, a lot of times we see folks are embarrassed to come forward. And I want to disavow folks of that feeling, because there is absolutely no reason to feel guilty about being victimized in this way. It is just not. And I wish we didn't see it to the extent that we do, but we do, especially when it's family members. Well, I shouldn't have, I should have known better or something like that. No, absolutely not. There is no shame in calling and asking for help if you become a victim. So they do it by phone, direct mailers, text messages, emails, complete and total fake websites. We're seeing a lot of that now since the pandemic, and basically the complete shift in the way that American consumers are buying things these days. They're just buying a lot more on online marketplaces because of speed, efficiency, quickness. Who has time to run and get that special part for the lawnmower when you can have it to your doorstep tomorrow? But with that convenience, of course, comes risk. So number 1 rule is, do not give any of your personal or financial information to a person whose identity you cannot verify. Red flags are always the same. We may not be able to know every scam out there as state agencies, as consumer protection activists, as any individual. There is no way that you can know every scam out there, but the red flags are usually the same from scam to scam. Scammers pretend to be someone you know or recognize. This could be a friend on a social media app. This could be, some long lost classmate or something like that. Another one is, scammers say there's a problem or a prize that requires immediate attention. They might say that you're in trouble with the government, that you owe money to somebody in your family. There's a problem with your financial account, and if you don't act right now, all of the money in your checking account is going to be gone. Or hey, you have won $1,000 for the rest of your life every other day. There are a lot. You just need to be aware. Another one, and kind of touched on it on the slide before, is that scammers pressure you to act immediately. This is a big red flag. That act now, and otherwise the price tomorrow triples. No, and remember, everything we need to know we learned in kindergarten, and one of those first things that we learned in kindergarten was, other than be nice to others, was if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And that is something that I want to reiterate. Another way to tell scammers, legitimate businesses accept legitimate mainstream ways to pay. If you're got yourself in a situation where somebody is asking for payment in Bitcoin or green dot cards or sketchy money transfer type things, then just take a step back and make sure you know who you are dealing with. And there are some free tools, and I want to reiterate free, because of course that's what I think, especially as a father of two teenagers, means the most to me, is how can I protect myself and my family for as little expense as possible. With as expensive as everything else is out there, we at DCA want you to know that there are very useful, very successful, and very free methods to protect yourself. Excuse me. So as we've mentioned before, one of the easiest and most important things that you can do is check your credit report. And I want to make sure this is coming up on the right screen. Yep, good. Make sure you check it. Now, annualcreditreport.com allows you one free report from each of the reporting agencies every week. Now, little caveat, it does not include your credit score. So I don't want to let folks think they can get their credit scores, because there's a big difference between your credit report and your credit score. But this free report does not include that. Now, here at DCA, we recommend at the very least, you check each bureau at least once a year. Now, that's the bare minimum. If you suspect activity that you're not aware of or anything like that, then I want you to check it more often. If you have already been a victim of identity theft, I want you to check it more often. But that is an incredible tool. Now, we did talk about this a little bit ago with that wonderful question about how do you tell? One of the biggest ways, again, check that credit report. It's made up of several factors that you need to check to make sure is accurate, because if anything is wrong in any one of these fields, then it's like your antenna should kind of go up, because you should get kind of your spidey sense and say, oh, that's weird, and why would that be there? For example, it's going to have your name and any name that you have used in the past. So check to make sure those are correct. Current and former addresses, birth dates, socials, and phone numbers. Now, you want to check to make sure everything is in there. Also, that's going to be on your credit report are your credit accounts. So your current and past credit accounts, your credit limits, the account balance, the payment histories, the date that account was opened and closed, and most importantly, the name of the person that you owe money to or entity, the name of the creditor. Now, these items are where you're going to quickly discover whether you are a victim of identity theft, because there are going to be things on there that you don't recognize. You're going to have a Capital One account that you didn't know about, or, you know, God forbid, you're going to have a house that you didn't know about, or you're going to have a tax lien, or, you know, a failure to appear for court. And those types of things will be in the public records. You're going to find also liens like civil suits, any judgments, bankruptcies. Also, we'll have hard and soft inquiries, which will tell you who has been looking at your credit report. That's super, super, super duper important too, because there again, that will also give you kind of that forewarning on, hey, something's not right. I do want to take just half a second and explain the differences between a hard inquiry and a soft inquiry. Hard inquiry means that you have applied for credit, and that does affect your score. Now, soft inquiries are on there. That is usually when a current creditor checks your report, which they do occasionally. You know, like if you have a Capital One card or a Bank of America card, generally those creditors will initiate a soft credit pool when they want to, you know, increase your credit line or something like that. Also, potential creditors check your report for pre-approval offers, things like that. The important thing to remember with soft credit inquiries is that they do not affect your credit score whatsoever. Now, in the last few minutes that I have, I promised free tools, and I want to go over a couple of some what we have found to be the most effective tools in protecting your financial well-being from identity thieves. First and foremost, I want everyone listening to consider placing a fraud alert on your credit profile. A fraud alert lasts for 1 year. It alerts businesses that may be viewing your report to take extra steps to verify your identity. Now, the interesting or great thing about the fraud alert is you only have to call one of the big three bureaus, and that fraud alert goes on all three bureau files. Another one, and very different, so I want to be sure to everybody gets the difference between the fraud alert and the credit freeze. I do want to recommend you putting a security freeze on your credit profile. They are free to place or lift, and it stops anyone from accessing your credit report. Now, this means including you. So no new lines of credit can be opened in your name. So this means that no landlord can check your credit, no card, no car dealer, no employer. You have a freeze. That basically means nothing new can be opened in your name. Now, it's pretty easy to thaw when you want to apply for new lines of credit, but you do need to place the freeze with each of the three credit reporting agencies. Basically, we here at the agency, sometimes it's a hassle, but generally speaking, most people have some pretty good advance notice of when you want to go buy a house, or when you want to go look at a new car, or when you need a new credit card. So you do have some advance notice. And this is one of the most important tools to use. Now, passwords sometimes are a touchy subject with folks, and I know, because my goodness, everything needs a password, and it's hard to remember them all. But remember what's at stake when you are sitting in front of your machine and you are complaining about the hassle of a password. So what we recommend is use at least 12 characters. Obviously, the rule is a longer password is usually the easiest way to increase its strength. Use a combination of upper and lowercase letters and symbols, and don't make passwords related to your personal life that a good con artist can guess just by going through a feed on your Facebook page. Another good tool, and is one that we use here at our agency with our encrypted hardware, with our computers, things like that, is multi-factor authentication. And what this is it is extra security by requiring something in addition to a password to log into your account. Sometimes it's like an app that you have on your phone that gives you a passcode, or like a scan of your fingerprint, your face, things like that. If available, use it. We've already talked about this one, but I want to hit it hard. Monitor your financial accounts. Please, 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 if nothing else is taken from today, monitor, check, check, check. Most financial accounts, they allow you to set up emails, text message account alerts, when you're spending, or if your card is swiped over a certain dollar amount, or if you're in a different, area of the state or the country than you usually are. Many of your financial providers will allow you to set up those warnings. So, and I mentioned it, I just didn't click it fast enough. Sorry, everybody. So, spending thresholds, when you've logged in from a new device, is this you type alert? You can set up emails that let you know when your credit report changes. That's a good one. Now, in the last few minutes that I have, I want to go over just a few safe shopping tips that we tell everybody. And like I said, no one ever needs to be ashamed of being a victim of identity theft, because these folks are really good at their job at separating you from your information and your money. So with that kind of in the back of your mind, I don't want to say every, because that's pretty serious, but most, and a vast majority of most of the folks that we get scam reports from and identity theft victims. And like I said, hindsight is always 20/20, but without a doubt, the vast majority of folks after the fact can look back and say, I thought blank was weird about this. I thought it was a great price. I thought the shipping was too fast than normal. I don't understand why it was $100 on Amazon, but I found it over at this site for $20. So anything too good to be true is probably true. Also, the most important thing is, and like I said, we here at the agency do not advocate for racking up credit. However, you do want to use credit cards if possible when shopping online. It's much better than using a debit card. There are many more consumer protections for those credit cards if something goes wrong. Also, a lot of the banks and credit card companies these days are offering virtual cards that come with multi factor authentication. So this is going to be, things like your Apple Pay or paying directly through the app or things like that. Now, protecting your identity and privacy online, like own your online identity. Some routers come with preset passwords out of the box. Change it. If it's on the box, then that means every single router that was sold like that has the exact same router. Now, there are plenty of criminals that will go around neighborhoods and check. And I can promise you that a lot of people have the exact same password as that device came out of the box with. Also, regularly check your security settings and make sure that everything is updated. Slogan we have here: share with care. And like I said, as a father of a teenage daughter, this one especially freaks me out. It is something that we abide by very stringently at my house is think before posting online. Remember, when you post something online, it is public and it is forever. So please consider what a post reveals about you, where it reveals you've been, or anything like that, and make sure that you are keeping those identity thieves guessing. Now, in my last minute, if you unfortunately, or God forbid, if you think you have been a victim of identity theft, then please, please, please contact us. You can call us at 734-4200, or you can go to our website at consumer.sc.gov. We have an entire unit. We have our very own identity theft unit that has a checklist that they go over with you to determine how to stop further damage and to repair the damage that has been done. And they are more than happy to walk you through the process. And we have a very useful toolkit, similar to the one you're seeing on your page. And of course, any of our publications are free to anyone who wants them. And of course, you can always call Scott or me. I wanted to leave his information up here so you would have his information. Mine is just J Copeland at scconsumer.gov. We all have the same domain there after the @ symbol. So with that, I know I breezed through that, and it was a lot of information to cover in a short amount of time. But I'm happy to, Susanna, you'll correct me if we have a few minutes for questions.
Yeah. And thank you so much for that, Jim. And I want to take a moment to make sure that everybody in our audience knows that the Department of Consumer Affairs does have a great website with a lot of information, and they also have something called Wednesday webinars. And so you can sign up for that to get those notifications about those Wednesday webinars by visiting that consumer.sc.gov. So I highly recommend that to everybody. Those are really great informational webinars that you guys do. So thank you for that.
Oh, no, thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
We do have one other question,
Okay.
and I think it's a good one. It goes back to you talking about the fake websites.
Okay.
And this audience member is asking, are there any ways that you can really know if it's a legitimate website when you're going and checking it out?
Great questions. Great questions. Okay, super good one, especially on the fake website. Now, if you remember when I said these folks are sophisticated, I mean, you're talking about sometimes people with, millions of dollars worth of infrastructure that they are using to perpetrate these frauds. So sometimes they are very difficult to discern a fake website versus a legitimate website. The easiest thing and the most repeated piece of advice that we give is make sure that the address in the website address is what you expect it to be. Now, as a regulator, I cannot point anybody to a specific internet website, but I use eBay as an example because it's easy and it's short. www.ebay.com is the email address. If you see www.ebays.com or ebay.com, some of those things are obviously very obvious and you will pick up immediately. The biggest and I think most important piece of information that we give, make sure that before you submit any personal identifying information, so that's going to be your name, your address, your birthday, social, financial account numbers, any private information, before you submit that over a website, you need to make sure in the address bar, it begins with the letters HTTPS. And I wish I had a picture of that to show you, Susie, and that's a wonderful, good question, but you will see it. You will know it when you see it. Secure websites will have HTTPS before the colon. Do not, under any circumstance, ever transmit information over a site that does not begin with those letters.
Yeah, that's great information. And it's so easy for these scammers to do exactly what you're talking about, add a letter to the name of a company. A company goes out of business, but maybe a scammer says, oh, they act like they're that business and they're having a fire sale of all their inventory or something like that. And you just look closely at where that's coming from. And I know another thing that I sometimes do if I think a website might be not legit is usually down at the very bottom of the homepage, there's a lot of the information about the entity. And sometimes you can find a way to, maybe they've got an address there, you can check out that address and, maybe find some clues down there that you can use. So, but yeah, that was a great question. I think that's all we have in the question box. So let me take a moment, Jim, to thank you for substituting in for Scott. We're really delighted to have the Chief Enforcement Attorney from South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs to join us today on this really important topic. So thank you. And I do encourage all of our audience to reach out to Scott and get
And me. Yeah.
And Jim too.
Yes, ma'am.
If you need further information, I've had and let me ask this before we close out your session, and that is I have had a number of clients who mistakenly think, and you had this in one of your earlier slides, they think they can just change their social security number. And it's very hard to convince them that they can't do that. Unless maybe they're in the witness protection program or something. Am I right?
Oh no, you're totally right, and it's something that we see a lot. It's one of the biggest myths for some reason that we find ourselves having to combat is, oh, well, just call Uncle Sam and give me a new number. Like it doesn't quite work like that. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, thank you for answering that for me. And again, thank you for being with us today. And keep doing the good work there at South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs. We are excited about our final round of speakers here today from law enforcement. When we first got together, and Tom Amaro will remember this, I think, when we first got together as the WEAD task force that is our partner in collaboration in these kind of events. One of the things that came out of one of the first events that we had was an item of feedback about the importance of including law enforcement in education, both as participants in the audience, but also more importantly as speakers to the audience. And so I am delighted that today we can have a couple of our great law enforcement folks to talk about some of these holiday fraud, theft, and scams. So welcome Lieutenant Tom Amaro from the Richland County Sheriff Department. It's great to see you.
Well, thank you very much. And Susan, thank you for inviting me today in the Richland County Sheriff Department, and Leon Lott, the sheriff of our county. Happy to say is very interested in especially helping our senior citizens and the citizens of Richland County when it comes to fraud. Over the last couple of years that I've been with the Sheriff's Department, I worked white collar crime. And one of the worst things besides maybe child abuse is crime against seniors when there's fraud involved. They're unfortunately the sweet spot of scams around the world. And currently, the biggest things that we have, besides with the holidays coming up, of course, and with Medicare, which I understand, I think the sign-off date will be December the 7th, when the last day to sign up for that. And when they're doing the transition with Social Security cards, going from actually the Social Security number to letters and numbers, which was a great help. But once again, I know other people talked about it, but one of the big problems was, of course, the trustworthiness of our seniors. They get a phone call and they talk to someone saying they're from a particular business, and oh, by the way, there's something wrong with your account, and once again they fall for that. But in the meantime, once again, we're basically primarily talking about holidays, and of course, unfortunately, we got a lot of Grinches out here. It's an equal opportunity as far as age groups. It can be from young folks to older folks who take the opportunity to go ahead and they see nice little gifts that are left on the porch. And unfortunately, everybody sees, you know, the Fed Express, UPS, and other delivery of packages. And of course, they take the time and trouble to go ahead and take the packages off the porch. It's like, for example, when people order, you know, a product, especially phones or latest gadgets, and by the time you get an alert on your phone, they said, "Oh, by the way, your package has been delivered," and lo and behold, you get home and your package is gone. Or for that matter, if you're lucky enough and you do have security cameras in the area, you might be able to get a photo of the person or the video of that person. But believe it or not, just according to stats from 2021, about 14% of Americans, or around 35 million people, have been victims of porch piracy. That's a hard statistic to believe within the past year. That's over 5 billion in merchandise stolen on an annual basis. And what's difficult for law enforcement is, of course, the person who comes to take that package may have a mask on, especially during the pandemic. It was not unusual to see someone with a face mask come into a porch or a house. And of course, a lot of times you have professional groups who come around, maybe in a van or a car, and they go through neighborhoods and waiting on the delivery of that package at that point in time. And I guess one of the first steps you can take as far as protecting yourself against the theft is to understand who they are and what is their motivation. Of course, their motivation is to make a profit, to steal something from you, and it's not going to cost them anything, and then resell that package or a product, and then either sell it on the street or take it to a pawn shop. And one of the questions people ask sometimes, what can I do to prevent the theft? Well, sometimes you see or hear or you see things on YouTube where a person takes steps to go ahead and try to prevent a theft by putting stuff in the package, including, cat litter or stuff like that in the package. And of course, big surprise. Other people, unfortunately, will do other things as far as, booby trapping the package. And I know you're an attorney, and Jim is also an attorney, and that's a big no-no. You do not want to go ahead and booby trap a package thinking that thief is going to take it, and oh my gosh, you have something in there, either a spring or compressed air or In some cases, it could be even people put like a shotgun shell in there. And unfortunately, it sort of reminds me of a case I can remember in the Midwest years ago where you actually had a burglar break into a mall. He fell through the ceiling of the mall and he sued the establishment and he successfully won his lawsuit. So once again, there's other ways to try to prevent a theft of your package, such as make sure if you know you're going to get a package, please make sure you have certain steps you may want to do. You may leave instructions with the company that you're going to deliver that package at a certain time, etc. But unfortunately, sometimes, you might set a certain time to be home, and of course, they may be late or they don't get there until 2, 3 hours later. Make sure it's a certified package delivery. So that way, if you're not home and you have to sign for it, well, they can redeliver it. I had a wonderful situation here a couple of weeks ago. I ordered a product. I was not home. The typical UPS label was on top of my door. And I came home and it said, oh, by the way, you can pick it up at your CVS. I had no idea you could do that. And luckily for me, I contacted CVS and I went and verified my package was there and I was able to pick it up. Once again, you might want to go ahead and deliver it to an alternative address. You might want to send it to maybe your cousin, a good friend, and have it delivered there where if someone's going to be there in order to pick up your package. Once again, it's kind of important sometimes, and people sometimes don't do it, but get to know your neighbors. If you know the neighbors for a long time, you consider them trustworthy. At that point in time, you may want to go ahead and see whether or not they can take the package for you at that point in time. There are some places, well, they have lockers. Some apartment complexes will have a locker where they leave a key in the locker. A package is delivered, and that person or the mailman will put that key in your mailbox if it's lockable at that point in time. Also, what you may want to try to do, if possible, if you have security cameras in the area, to have that to observe your area of your porch. So that way, it may prevent someone to prevent stealing your package, and or some alarm companies will actually, once you hear that motion comes of there, they will actually respond and see what's happening, and they'll put out an audio voice saying, no, stop, get away from the package, and the criminal may walk off at that point in time. And if anything if you don't do it, please make sure you get insurance for that package that you're going to go ahead and have delivered to you. Just in case by some slim chance that package is stolen, you have at least something to go with as far as insurance providing you with some relief at that point in time. Also remember too, is one important thing is when a package is delivered, guess what? It does have your mail-in address. So once again, be very leery of what you put on that mail-in address. And once again, getting back to packages and the holiday spirit, we all want to go to do Christmas shopping, but be vigilant of the surroundings when you go shopping, and also be careful when you put stuff out on social media. One of the biggest problems that we do have is that people put too much stuff on social media. They'll put out what they like to eat, what they like to buy, what kind of clothing they may have. But once again, they may put, oh, I'm going to shopping Friday night, or I'm going out of town. During the holidays, please don't do that. Keep it in your inner circle and don't share it or post it out somewhere. Also, if, for example, if you are going out on a holiday or out of town for a few days, please contact your local police department or sheriff's department. Here at Richland County Sheriff's Department, we have what we call a property check. You call in our main number at 803-576-3000, and you tell the desk or who answers the phone, I'm going out of town. Can you put my property on property check? And at that point in time, the person will get information from you, what kind of cars you might have there. Is somebody going to be there? Is there an emergency contact phone number in case we can get a hold of you, in case something does happen? Because once again, there are some times where there may be an emergency. You'd be surprised. You might have a situation where you had a neighbor who finds, water line, especially during cold weather. You might have a break in your home water line, and they can get a hold of you. So that way we can try to get a hold of someone else to come and help and bring a key so we can get inside the house. That's for future steps that we want to take. In addition to that, I know another thing we were talking about as far as talking about arrest warrants, fake arrest warrants. I remember one time several years ago, I was out on a 2-week vacation, and I got a call from a major at Fort Jackson who had called saying that I had called them, and it was about an arrest warrant. Now, folks, this is probably over a decade ago when this happened. So this shows you how long this kind of scam goes. So when I called her back, I went ahead, and as soon as she heard my voice, she said, Mr. Romero, as soon as I heard your voice, I knew it wasn't you who called me. I said, well, ma'am, let me do this just in case. Let me get a case number, write a report, and just in case, if you become a victim of a crime, you'll have that. And once again, I think somebody else had talked about it. If you do become a victim of a crime, especially fraud, please report it. Once again, if you don't report it, you may know about it, your friend may know about it, your bank may know about it. But once again, if you file a police report, whether just jurisdiction you're in, one problem you may have, especially when it comes to fraud, for example, the jurisdiction. Well, once again, if you're the victim of the fraud, even though it might be a bank or a business in another state or another jurisdiction, go ahead and fill that report out. So that way, at least you have it on file. You can contact, if it's here in Richland County, you can contact the Sheriff's Department or CPD, Forest Acres, or IRMO. But once again, once it's on file, you've got a report to go back to show that you are trying to do something about the fraud. In addition to that, you also might want to contact the Federal Trade Commission, their fraud division. You can also make a report with them. That helps in that way. Sometimes you have rings throughout the country. We had one time we had a ring operating out of the Southeast area all the way to Texas. And once again, it was able to be solved by having that interlinked of that information at, so that way one jurisdiction in another state knows what another jurisdiction may have, and that link is there. So we can try to fight crime at that point in time. Now, when it comes to fake warrants, for example, scammers can use fake arrest warrants to extort money from victims, of course. There are two types of scams that use fake arrest warrants. The scammer uses a spoof number to call a victim and threaten them with an arrest warrant over unpaid debt or fine. They exploit the victim's fear and force them to pay immediately. And this really happens to our seniors who are older, and a lot of times they've never been in trouble in their life. And once again, they hear that, oh my God, I've got an arrest warrant for me. I got to do something about it. What do I need to do? And so once again, that's when they go into a little spill. The scammer tells potential victims to load money on a prepaid card and pay the fine and at the Sheriff's Department. However, they get a call back, and then they were too late and have to make the payment immediately and have the payment on the phone and use the PayPal Cash app, or send cryptocurrency by using a crypto ATM COSAC. Well, folks, that's another thing. Be cognizant of the fact now is that a lot of criminals are using payment plans or to pay the fine cryptocurrency. Once again, those magic word cryptocurrency, you have to pay a fine, a bill that's not legitimate. Do not send them money. It goes as far as some of these scams, they will tell the victim to go to the ATM cryptocurrency machine. And actually, they do have them. I do know for a fact, I saw one the other day right there up, right just past Richmond Memorial Hospital at a store. So once again, unfortunately, once those victims put that money in that ATM, it may be gone and may not be traceable at this point in time. So just keep that in mind. But once again, the victim may also receive fake arrest warrant letters demanding money. The letters may display a bogus logo via sheriff department, police department, and tell them that once again they owe money for a fine or some other type of thing. In order to avoid arrest, you can pay through either PayPal, Cash App, or some other app at that point in time. And once again, you know, to avoid being conned by the scam, just remember one thing: as far as Richland County Sheriff's Department knows, officers don't call people out of the blue, asking them they pay a fine or settle any other charge. The same goes for IRS, Social Security Division, Medicare, or FTC or FBI. In fact, no government agency will. Now, once again, we will, if there's true arrest warrants for you, we will, of course. I used to work at the Warrant Division many, many years ago, and we will call people to turn themselves in. However, that is it. We tell them to turn themselves in either at the Sheriff's Department or we can meet them at the county jail, which is different. We will never, ever ask for money or any kind of credit card payment or any cash app at this point in time. So that's things that we do. Now, I'm going to stop and pause for right now if anybody has any questions.
Hey, Tom, we have a question about with the fake arrest warrant. Those folks are sometimes going to say, come on down and turn yourself in. But what if they're not asking you to turn yourself in and actually go into the sheriff's department or actually go into whatever the facility is that
Okay.
they're
Yes,
asking
yes,
you to
ma'am.
come to?
All right, yes, ma'am. And like I said, once again, if in fact, if there is an arrest warrant for you, all you have to do is call our office. And once again, make sure they can spoof that number, the number that may be on your text, email, or your cell phone or your home phone, for example. It may look like the Richland County Sheriff's Department number 803-576-3000, but just verify once again, you actually call that number yourself. Don't call it or text it from your phone, because once again, that number could be spoofed. And all you have to do is contact our warrant division and they will be able to tell you if they actually have a warrant. And once again, if we do have an active warrant on you, you can turn yourself in at 5623 Two Notch Road or 2500 Decker Boulevard. That's where our warrant division is actually located at. Or for that matter, we will actually meet you at the jail itself. And when I'm saying meeting at the jail, we would meet you at the front entrance inside the jail, and we would have a copy of the arrest warrant in hand. So like I said, if someone should try to say, hey, meet me at such and such place, no, never, ever, ever meet anybody in some other address besides a known government location. Or call me. I'll give you my number here shortly. And when in doubt, like I said, that's the main thing is you don't want to there's so many ways to go ahead and spoof things as far as phone numbers go. The texts, get them all the time, you know, and that's another thing. Just be very leery of responding to a text, because once again, it'd be malware on it and it can compromise your phone. And also be careful, if you do become compromised, you think you become compromised, please make sure you contact your contacts via another device, home phone if you have one, because what will happen is, I had this situation. Once again, I had a strange email that came over to me, my work address, and so it just happened to be that it was a right phone number for it turned out to be a victim. Her phone got hacked and her contacts got hacked. So and so I went ahead and called her, and she had indicated, and what my main concern was, well, ma'am, have you made a report about it? And she already did. She lived in another jurisdiction, and couldn't find out, because one thing, our whole purpose is even though a person may become a victim, I had a situation where I had a person in Richland, Ohio, trying to report a fraud, and she got irate about it when I didn't know what she was talking about. And then finally, she told me about this high school. I said, "Well, ma'am, we don't have that high school here in Richland County." I said, "Are you calling from Ohio?" And then she paused and said, "Yeah." So why I had her on the phone, I put her on hold. I called Richland County, Ohio, and transferred to them. So hopefully she got some relief from that. But sometimes, you know,
That's a great story. You know, the spoofing is such an aggravating development when it comes to cell phones.
absolutely.
Because, like you said, you get a call and it says Richland County Sheriff or some other law enforcement group. So it seems like it must be a legitimate, you know, arrest warrant or whatever. So that's just, and there doesn't seem to be a whole lot that we can do about the spoofing of the phone numbers, other than, as you so aptly pointed out, to report it. Both
Oh,
to Department of Consumer Affairs here in South Carolina and also the FTC, because although they might not be able to do something about that particular situation at that moment, they're gathering that information, and the more information they have, the more chance there is that at some point they'll be able to track these folks down. So that's
oh,
really important.
absolutely. And it comes to, like I said, there's so many different types of crimes. In fact, on earlier webinar I had this morning, we discussed, one of our folks in Project Hope. We have a program here in Richland County where we have over 500 seniors that we go out and do little services for them, or we give them a call. And one of our people in Project Hope contacted one of our senior coordinators about it, and she got the secret shopper scam with a $3,700 check.
That is still out there. The
Still
secret
out there.
shopper scam.
That's right. That's right. Still out there. And unfortunately, in this type of scam, I'm sure you may have heard it, but for the folks who haven't heard about this particular one, and where you go ahead and deposit this $3,700 check in your account, and they want you, the scammer, they want you to go ahead and take a picture of your deposit slip, which now has your account number on it, which they will have. And they wanted, in this particular scam, they wanted to use that $3,000 to use your credit card or your debit card to make the six $500 purchases of Walmart money gift cards. And what they wanted you to do then is remove the cards out of the packet, take a picture of the front and the back. And of course, if you take the picture of your back, you got the pin to the code to your gift card that you just purchased. So now, not only did you put $3,700 in your account, you sent them, the scammers, back the $3,000. And then when the bank or the Federal Credit Union says, "Hey, Mr. John Doe, that check you put in there is counterfeit," and now they're looking at a loss of $3,700. So that's how simple it is. And once again, believe it or not, I did call that number from a burner phone, and I got an answer. And of course, I told the gentleman, I said, "Well, my wife got this check, and something just doesn't sound right about it. I'm not interested in it. In fact, I already had voided a check." And prior to that, he had said, "Well," I said, "Sir, I'm kind of confused about this thing." He goes, "Oh, read the instructions." I said, "Well, I know that. I did read the instructions, but I'm confused about it." And then he clicked. He hung up. So, but then again, you get people out here this time of the year, and unfortunately, folks, especially they're living on a fixed income, they think that's like manna from heaven at this point in time, and they fall for it. And of course, they're holding the bag. Some banks will go ahead and take care of it, and some unfortunately will say, "Hey, you took part of it, you put it in there, and you're gonna have to pay us back."
Yeah, and I think that's a great segue if you're wrapping up for us to switch over to Eric Rossdale from SLED to talk about those gift cards that you mentioned. So thanks so
Absolutely.
much, Lieutenant
You're quite
Tom
welcome,
Romero,
and
for
thank
being
you, and
here.
have a wonderful day.
All right, take care. we did have one question, which was, do you ever catch people that do fraud, like the ones that call and say you have a trip to the Bahamas and they end up stealing your credit card information and then they end up taking all your money? Do you ever catch those type of people? And Eric, you feel free to answer that, or Tommy, the one. Probably hard to do.
Yes, those folks are very difficult to catch. Many of them. We live in such a global world these days that many of those scams come from overseas somewhere. A good portion of them do, and it's very difficult, even though we have several federal agencies that do work overseas to try to protect us against those types of scams. They still are very difficult to track down and hold somebody accountable.
Right. Well, let me get you to go to full screen with your slides. If you go to display settings and swap out to
Wow.
yeah,
Did that do it?
that's it. Yeah, thanks.
All right, perfect.
All right,
Yay.
take it away.
All right. We're going to talk about gift card scams and best practices. And truly, almost every single thing I'm going to say has been said at least once this afternoon already, but it warrants being said time and time again because we fortunately cover this and try to make folks aware at least once a year, and yet we still see folks falling victim to these types of scams, both in person and electronically. And truly, I think it goes back to especially our seniors. We live in a polite society. We want to help people out when they ask us a question. We want to try to answer their question. We're kind of wired that way, especially if we've grown up that way. Phone calls. We all have, cellular phones now. And if it rings, we feel like we have to answer it and talk to the person on the other end, which we truly don't. If you don't recognize that number, and it's not something that looks, and fortunately, some of them now actually say potential scam or something to that effect on them. So you kind of get an idea of whether they're good numbers or not. But if you don't know who it is, it's okay to let it go to voicemail. If it's important, they'll leave you a message and you can call them right back, and that's okay. So don't think just because the phone is there and it's ringing that you have to answer every single call and talk to the person. Also, I got hit with this one the other day and they almost got me. There's some very good recordings at the beginning of these phone calls, and a lot of them are trying to elicit a response from you. This one particularly was trying to get me to say yes. And of course, it came on. It sounded like a real person. They asked me a question that the answer would have been yes. And I know they were trying to get my recorded voice saying yes. And they almost got me. And I stopped myself and, of course, waited another second and the phone hangs up itself. So another good tip, not related to gift cards. If you answer the phone, you don't know who it is, give it a couple seconds. If it's a scam call, a lot of times it's waiting on you to say something and it'll disconnect itself a lot of the time. So just a couple things not related to gift cards, but
it's good to know that even the best of us can fall victim or kind of question, maybe not question right away, but if you stop and think about it for even just a few seconds, you can remember, don't fall for it, right?
Yes, I mean, it sounded real and I was about ready to talk to this person and answer their question, and it just dawned on me at the last split second, this is not a real person, and I stopped because who knows what I was giving them access to. They probably had some of that other information and just needed me to say yes so they could do something electronic, I'm sure. But gift cards, payment by gift cards, it's always a scam. Nobody, and I know this has been said several times, nobody from utilities to services uh, to warrants to anything is asking you to pay by gift card. It does not work that way. None of us are running our businesses by getting gift cards and then turning that into cash. That's just not the way business works. So just get it in your mind. If anybody ever asks, that's the key word. If anybody ever asks you for a gift card, I want you to think of it this way. It's a gift card. Who gives a gift? You do. You give a gift to somebody else. They don't get to ask for a gift from you. You're not sitting at the mall. You're not Santa Claus. They're not sitting on your lap. They're not asking for gifts. So just keep that in mind, that a gift card always comes from you. It's initiated by you to give to somebody you know as a gift. Never use a gift card for anything else but giving a gift to somebody else. Reason that criminals have gotten latched onto it, it's convenient. It's easy to convert back into cash. Of course, the slide says 1 in 3 adults have had somebody. I'm sure everybody on this call has had somebody contact them and say, hey, you can pay this by gift card, or something's past due and it's going to get cut off today. Go get a gift card and give me the numbers off the back. And again, 1 in 4 adults who were contacted actually went and bought the gift cards. So it's always a scam. It's always a scam. Never, ever, 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 ever purchase a gift card to pay a bill or to pay something. That's gift cards are for giving. They're for gifts. Hopefully that resonates, and that's something that will stay in the back of your mind as you go forward. Again, why scammers love gift cards, they're readily available. You can find them everywhere. It doesn't, you're from convenience stores to your big box hardware stores, to the pharmacy stores. They are everywhere, and there's every single different kind that's out there. And scammers know which ones are easier. They're probably going to request a certain kind of card because they know which ones have a little bit lax security than other cards. They know what's easier to convert quicker. So they're probably going to say, go to such and such a place, or go find this type of card and get this particular card, and then call me back or read me the numbers off the back, or take a picture of it and send it to this number, so they have access to the cards. Again, if you're not familiar with the way gift cards work, or money cards, or any sort of card that you would purchase to give to somebody, those numbers that are on that card are how that card can be accessed. You don't have to have that physical card with you to pull the money off of it. As long as you have the numbers on the back and that code that's on there, you can actually pull that money off of that card remotely, which is what these folks do. And you're holding a card that you paid whatever you paid for it, and it's got a zero balance on it now. So just never ever, first of all, never ever ever buy a gift card to pay something, and never ever ever give those numbers off the back. They are virtually untraceable. Once you buy a gift card, and if you've ever lost them, you probably know this as well. Once it's lost or gone, it's lost or gone. Unless you registered it with the company, which a few certain cards will actually let you. There's information on the back of the card on how to register that card with that particular company. Unless you went ahead and registered it when you purchased it, it's probably gone if you lose the card or if you give the number away. So again, you can look on the back of the card, and those that allow you to register them with the company will say on the back, and it'll give you instructions on how to do that. And then that protects the balance on that card. You can call the company and say, hey, I've lost this card, or this card's been stolen. here's my information, I registered that card, and a lot of times they can refund you back your money. So it's just a little safety feature that some cards have on them. They are easily converted to cash or Bitcoin. And again, Bitcoin, one of those things that again is very is remote, mostly untraceable. I'll say it that way. So it's one of those things that scammers love to get stuff transferred into Bitcoin because it's very easy to move around. And it's very hard to track. So if they can get it into Bitcoin or they can get it into cash, chances are nobody's going to be able to catch up to where that money goes. So also, we were talking about, Lieutenant was talking about the secret shopper scams. And a lot of those, have you go and buy gift cards. Years ago, they used to have you go buy big ticket items and actually ship those big ticket items to them, and then they would return them at a store and get the money back that way. Before electronic gift cards really became the norm. But with electronic gift cards, it allows them to move large amounts of money very quickly without having to deal with some sort of large item that they have to take back to a store and return or have shipped and actually receive, which opens them up to actually being caught during the shipping process if it was found out ahead of time that it was a scam. So getting that information and using gift cards, they can move $500 at a time without ever having to touch anything. Or at most, it's a very small gift card. It's easy to use. They can transfer it on to another gift card. So they can have cards that they readily use that they just keep putting money on, refillable cards that they take the money off of yours and put it on the other refillable card. So it's again, it's unfortunately a large industry, and a lot of money is lost every year in the United States due to these scams. And mostly they're going after those folks that don't have that money to give away. So it's a double crime. Not only are they stealing the money, but they're stealing the money from sometimes our most needy citizens. So signs to watch for. Here's some of the things that you can look for if these are happening. It is a scam. Make sure you don't continue to follow through. If you're directed to buy one or more gift cards, often they'll get referred to as electronic vouchers. As a quick means of making a payment. Somebody said earlier, I heard somebody say, there's always an urgency. If there's an urgency, you must do it right now. If you don't do it right now or in the next hour or in the next 30 minutes, I'm not going to be able to keep your utilities on or make sure that this arrest warrant doesn't go through or whatever the request is. If somebody is pressuring you to do something quick, it is a scam. Do not do it. Stop, say thank you, hang up the phone, and then you can contact that company that they say they work for through your normal channels, the way you would normally contact them, either the sheriff's office or the utility company, and ask them some questions. Are you told to share the numbers on the back of the cards? Most will do this. They don't even bother with trying to get the physical card anymore. They just want you to read the numbers off of the back. And once they have that number, they have that PIN number on the back, they can access the balance off of it. They'll pull that off of there, put it on another card or stick it in an account somewhere. And again, then you're holding a card that has a zero balance and there's not much you can do about it. One of the things, and we'll talk about tampering here in a minute, because there's two different kinds. Somebody calls you and tells you need to buy and send a gift card or give them the numbers. And then if you're physically going into a store, I did this just this week. I had a gift to buy. I wanted to do a gift card. So I went into the store and I actually bought a gift card and did the purchase. And I'll tell you what I was looking for when I purchased that gift card, because I want you to be protected if you're physically going into a store and buying the gift cards as well. But the requests come from someone you wouldn't expect to ask for money this way. Social Security problem, utility company, we talked about that a lot, imminent shut off, a lottery company, you've won a big prize, but I have not won the Russian lottery. I don't play the Russian lottery. So if somebody calls me and says, hey, you won the Russian lottery, I know they're not telling the truth. So again, the lottery is not going to call you and say, you won a prize. Publishers Clearinghouse is not going to call you and say, we have a big prize for you, but we need you to send us $200 first before we can process. That's what they're going to call it. This is to process your winnings. Don't fall for that in any way, shape, or form. No awards or money that you would ever win on anything you have joined in on is going to require that you send them money first to process your winnings. That's just not the way any sort of giveaway works. So don't fall for that. I have had this one come across my desk several times. A grandchild needing bail or facing some financial emergency. The one I had was needing bail. Somebody had called. They had called a grandparent and actually knew the grandchild's name. And of course, it was a situation where the grandparent didn't readily know the child's voice on the phone. And of course, the person playing the grandchild asked them for money, and because they had gotten in trouble, they didn't want to call their parents. They didn't want to get in trouble. They just needed them to send them this amount of money so they could get out of this legal trouble that they had gotten into. Fortunately, the person contacted the police department, and we were able to say, no, that is a scam. Your grandchild is fine. Please call their parents. Which I would suggest anyway, and let them know, this has happened, and they can confirm that their child is fine, which they did, and everything was fine. You're not going to get that call that says, hey, this is your grandchild, they need bail, and here's how you're going to do it. If you get a call from somebody from a family member in jail, you're going to know it, and you're going to have to probably go down to the actual physical jail or to an actual physical bail bond in that area to be able to post a bond or bail for them. So it's not going to be done over gift card. It's not going to be done over the phone or over text or over wire, anything like that. So please, please, please don't fall for those. Some things to remember when you're avoiding gift card scams. Again, I said this at the beginning. If you remember nothing else, remember this. Gift cards are for gifts, never for payments. No legitimate organization is going to ask you to make a payment using a gift card. So just always remember, I'm not buying a gift card unless I'm giving a gift to somebody else. And as long as you follow that simple rule, you're probably never going to find yourself a victim of one of these scams. One thing I will say is look for signs of tampering when you're going to buy somebody a gift card for Christmas. And so you go to the store, there's a bunch of them on the rack. You're picking out which one you actually want. Most of them today come in cardboard containers that are sealed shut so that the numbers are not exposed. Check that. Check the packaging. Make sure the numbers have not already been exposed. One thing I do is I never pick the one from the front of the rack. I'm always going to pick one from further back in the rack, because if somebody's going to tamper with the package, open it up, take a picture of the numbers on the back, then put it back, waiting for you to buy it. And the way this works is they look at the card, they take a picture of the numbers on the back of the card so that they have access to that card. They put it back on the rack, and then they just wait. Every so often they'll check to see if there's a balance on it. Eventually somebody will come along, buy that card, put a balance on it, and once that happens, they pull the money right off that card. You had the physical card, you did exactly what you were supposed to do, but somebody had already gotten the numbers on that card ahead of you. So always look to make sure that it's still in the package, it's still sealed up. None of the numbers are visible on the back side, or at least the PIN numbers are not visible on the back side. That's still in its original packaging. And again, like I said, I never pick one. Do it like you pick milk. That's the easiest way I can tell you. The least dated milk is always getting pushed to the front, right? I'm always picking my milk from the back, so I get a longer lasting milk. Same thing with gift cards. Always pick them from the back, and then again double check them to make sure that they have not been tampered with and they are still intact in their original packaging. Check the balance. You can go on. You can call the number on the back is probably the easiest way. You can go online. I usually just call that number that's on the back of the card, and it'll say press 1 for the balance. And then you can press the number and it'll say this much is left on this particular card. You can check the balance and make sure that it's good. Even before you leave the retailer, you can always check the balance and make sure that what you purchased was actually what you got before you leave and take the time to take it home and then find out, oh no, something didn't go right, the transaction didn't go through, they didn't swipe the card right, the money didn't get on it. It's always easier to check it first. So, and treat gift cards like cash. Many gift cards will allow you to actually change the PIN. You can go online or you can call the number on the back, and you can put your own PIN number on that particular card. So you can remember it when you go to use it, something that you would remember, and not use the one that came with the card. Because again, you don't know how often those PIN numbers are used on those cards and who has access to all of those PIN numbers. So it's always a good idea, if you have the option and you're getting a card that you're going to use for yourself, go ahead and change that PIN number to something you'll remember. Or if you get one as a gift, go in and change that PIN number to something that only you know. And that way, even if a scammer gets a hold of the actual number on the back, they won't be able to get the money off of it because they don't know what the PIN is, and that'll keep that particular card safe. I'll ask if there's any questions so far. I've kind of run through a bunch of stuff really, really fast.
That's been great. I don't see any questions at this point though, so you're covering it good.
Awesome, awesome. Again, this is my contact information. Most of what I told you, I know has been said many, many times. Gift card scams are like all other scams. Somebody who is very good at manipulating you is going to contact you. That's number one. Somebody's going to contact you and they're going to request something of you that you wouldn't normally give them. Money, gift cards, something. Somebody you don't know is going to contact you. That's number one. So if you don't know who that person is and they're contacting you, asking you for information or money or something you wouldn't normally give them, right there, you know you should stop right there. Number two, You don't have to answer questions. We have this issue. My mother-in-law, unfortunately, we're dealing with a time where we're having some memory issues now. We've gotten to that stage, and she believes she grew up that you answer the phone, you answer the questions of the person on the other side, and we are very worried because we have to remind her often, Meemaw, which is what we call Meemaw, you don't have to talk to people you don't know. Don't talk to them. Just hang up it's okay. Just hang up. You're not being rude. Just hang up the phone. So you don't have to talk to them. And again, what's yours is yours. Don't give your stuff. You wouldn't just normally give your furniture away to somebody who just called you and said, "Hey, I'd like your lamp." Okay, well, let me box it up and send it to you. Think of your financial and your information, your social security number, all your bank account, your all that stuff the same way as your physical furniture. If I don't know you, I'm not giving it to you. So just kind of keep that in mind. And I think if you follow those simple steps, you probably will not, you'll be less likely, I'll say that, to be a victim.
Well, I personally like your how you pick your milk example. So I may have to steal that one from you. It's so true. I was
Yes.
thinking, oh, that's what I do with milk. But this is definitely a good example of how you should pick a gift card. Here's a question, going back to the sort of that grandparent scam that you mentioned. What about AI now, where people are able to copy a person's voice, and so maybe they're copying the voice of the grandchild, and that really could make you think that it's really true.
Yes, there is, unfortunately, AI is becoming even more advanced than that. I have actually seen just lately that what's called deep fakes, where you can take, my face gets put on somebody else, and as they talk, it sounds like me and looks like me, and it's becoming where it can be done off of a laptop, which before it took supercomputers. There was, billions of code that had to be written. But they're getting so good at programming that you can actually now do it on a laptop. So AI is going to be very difficult and again, you don't know what to trust.
Yeah.
So always stop, even if it's AI, stop,
Mhm.
hang it up, call me back personally, and I'll say, no, I wasn't just talking to you. So
Yeah,
you can
that's
always
good too.
stop what you're doing and, contact the person that you actually know. If it just sounds like, that's not something Eric would ever ask me to do, that sounds weird. I'm going to hang up and I'm going to call him back and find out what's wrong with him. So it's always a
Yeah,
good idea
that's
to
a
stop what you're doing, hang up the phone, hang up, or get offline, whatever you're doing, and then physically contact that person by the means
yeah.
that you know is a good contact for them.
Nothing is that urgent that you can't just think about your own, personal and informational safety,
Yeah.
and stop and take a step back. So, well, listen, Eric, thank you so much for being with us today. We don't have any other questions, but with you and Tom rounding it out today with the law enforcement perspective, I think that's just a great way to send our audience off with really great information. So thank you all for joining us today for this really essential discussion on recognizing and avoiding holiday fraud, theft, and scams. The holiday season should be a time of joy and celebration and generosity, but unfortunately, it's prime time for the scammers and the fraudsters. So this was just so helpful, and we hope that our audience leaves today with these valuable tools and strategies that all of our speakers have provided to protect yourself, your loved ones, and even your community. So, just always verify before you trust. Monitor those bank accounts and others closely, credit reports and whatnot. And when in doubt, don't hesitate to ask those questions. And also, of course, always report suspicious activity, or if you were scammed, don't be embarrassed, report it and see if you can get something done about it. But a special thanks also to all of you that were our guest speakers for sharing those those insights and your expertise. It's really invaluable to have folks like you helping us all stay informed and stay vigilant. So thank you. I want to remind our audience that we have been recording this. We will post it on our YouTube channel, so feel free to visit it there. And of course, share it out with your friends and family, especially at this time of year. Others can really benefit from it. And as always, if you have any questions or concerns after today's sessions, don't hesitate to reach out to us here at South Carolina Legal Services or to our speakers who have so graciously provided their contact information. All of us together can really help create a safer, more secure holiday season for everybody. So thanks again for spending your time with us today. Everybody stay safe, stay informed, and have a wonderful holiday season. Thanks, everybody.